To create a freeform shape, usually we use the line tool. We can access it through the Create panel, Shapes, Spline, Line. For now, I'm going to use the top viewport because when working with splines, 2D viewport is much more suitable. Okay, now before we start doing anything, notice in here we have initial type and drag type. The initial type means what type of vertex you want to create when you do click and release. The drag type means what kind of vertex created when you do click and drag. We're going to talk about the differences between corner, smooth, and Bezier later on. For now, you just need to know that there is a setting in here before we even create the line. Make sure the initial type is set to corner and drag type is set to Bezier. This setting works exactly the same as pen tool in Illustrator or Photoshop. Okay, now watch when I click and release and click and release. The vertices I created become corner, thus making the lines between them straight. But when I click and drag like this, notice the vertices created are rounded, or we can say the lines between the vertices become curved. To finish a spline, simply right-click once. Notice the spline is finished, but we are still in line mode, so right-click again once if you want to exit the line creation mode. Let's say we want to create a heart shape. Go to the line mode, click in here, click drag in here, click in here, click drag in here, and click again at the beginning of the path. 3ds Max will ask whether we want to close the spline. Choose yes and the spline becomes closed spline. Try this exercise before moving on, and if you failed at first try, just keep trying and you should get better and better every time you retry. A little tips when creating a shape with the line tool. When you want to go back one step, you can press backspace button on your keyboard. After creating the heart shape, you can try creating different shapes as you like. Next, we're going to learn how to create sharp curves. To do this, we can use the Alt button to bend the handle while creating the line. For example, I will create some random shape in here using line. Now watch how I click drag in here until we have something like this. Then, while still pressing the mouse button, press and hold the Alt button in the keyboard. Notice how this next curve becomes sharp. This technique may be a bit hard for you to use at first, but almost every CG application are using this method. So it's better for you to learn to do this by practicing a lot, because again later it will be a skill not only useful in 3ds Max but also transferable to other CG applications. Okay, after you are comfortable with it, we're going to create a more complex shape, which is an eagle head icon. First, click in here, click drag like so, then hold Alt and move it to this position. Now release the mouse button and the Alt button. Then move and click in here. Next, we're going to create the next feathers. Click drag in here, press Alt again, and move and click in here. Now just click and release several times. At this point, click drag, Alt, release. Click drag in here, click drag in here also, then press Alt. Move it like so. Now we're going to create the head's feather. Using the Alt again, click drag, and the last, just click on the beginning point to close the spline. Now we have an eagle head icon. If you still cannot create good result using this method, that is okay. Just keep practicing, as most people do need a lot of practices using this method until they can master it. Next, we're going to discuss different types of vertices in spline and how we can change or convert them between one to another. I create this random shape and go to Modify panel and go to Vertex Sub-Object mode. When I pick this one vertex in here and right-click, notice how this option in here says that it is a corner. Now when I change this to smooth, the vertex now becomes smoother. If I change this to Bezier, look how this vertex now has handles. And we can control these handles around. Notice these handles kind of bind together and form symmetrical lines. If I change this to Bezier corner, now these handles can move freely from one another. So to sum up, we can see this slide in here. The easiest way to memorize this is by remembering the word Bezier, which actually was named after a French scientist who developed the algorithm. When we see the Bezier, it means it has handles. So corner is sharp, smooth is not sharp, but both of these do not own any handles. Now on the other hand, the Bezier is smooth, the Bezier corner can be sharp, and both have handles. To be honest, I almost never use smooth, as it is very hard to control the spline using this vertex type. And also in many CG applications, the smooth type is actually not available.